Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Steven Georgella,
My name is Philip Trepetowski.
and welcome to another exciting edition of the Automotive Market Minute, in which may or may not take just over 1 minute. We will be reviewing November 2023. Phil, next slide, please. And so what happened in the month of November? Well, we are going to do a November recap, or I should say Philip is going to. We're going to talk about improving affordability, talk about the Manheim Used Vehicle Value Index, as well as some of the APR offers that are performing. I'm sure he'll talk about some new, some used, etc. Number three, how successful dealerships are navigating today's market. It's been the devil's in the details has been a bit of the topic of conversation for many of the dealers, and so we'll be talking about that, and then especially talking about the devil's in the details. We'll be relating the focus in 2024 right back to that. So, Phil, with that said, why don't you take us down the old data path?
Yeah, so looking at November, the first thing that you'll see is that consumer sentiment actually increased throughout November. A rather small increase of 0.1%. However, consumer sentiment has been on a downward trend for 3 of the last 4 months. It was 3 months in a row up until November. And so to see a little bit of a pop back up to the positive side is very good to see. You can see that their sentiment is improving slightly. They're feeling a little bit better about the overall economy. And again, that's after 3 months in a row of overall consumer sentiment declining.
And so on that, here's the interesting part. Phil and I talk about this. Here's one interesting part. Phil and I talk about it pretty much every week. So we're sitting there. We look at all the data. It's like, okay, it has to go down. But then all of a sudden, the consumer keeps spending. So it holds. And then the bulls come in. And they're like, ha, I told you guys. They still have money. And employment's only at this level. So they're going to keep on spending. But then Phil and I look, and we're like, this is too expensive. This is too expensive. They have more credit card debt. I think it was Alabama. 1 in 5 people are already in arrears on their car payments. I think somebody told me Washington, D.C. was like 1 in 3. And you're just going through these things. It's like all of the things that indicate fiscal responsibility or things that we consider pillars of fiscal responsibility. And I realized that all the nuances and all the things, if I listen to enough Rick Santelli, I think that I think you could just keep on going and going and going for days and days on end. But I try to make it simple. It just doesn't make sense. But I guess it does. If there's one crumb left on the table, they're going to go after it. And if there's one crumb left, then the consumer got to eat. Is kind of how I'm seeing it. It's like, oh, no, they're fine. They got to eat. It's like, but they ate one crumb. Oh, but they got to eat. And then the market's just going to keep it up because they're like, oh, but they got to eat. And for me and for Phil, it just doesn't seem as if it can go that much longer holding here. And it seems like it's like this perma bull thing where they're just holding it up as long as possible. So here's what I'm going to say now. If we can keep on spending, if the consumer can keep on earning to this reasonable level, and while they're not getting in a better position long term, I mean, the consumer right now is just like, it seems like net neutral and maybe a little bit backwards, but it's not backwards fast enough to make the market actually go back down. Maybe we could have another 1 or 2 months of this. Phil, I don't, it just seems as if if there is going to be enough employment and there's enough money going around, then they'll keep spending. And if they keep spending, if the other things such as repos and whatever it may be, if those things aren't high enough and the consumer doesn't get spooked, why wouldn't things at least stay reasonably the same?
You make some good points there. I mean, speaking of that, you can see in November from a national level, sales were up compared to October. Again, it looked like October was rather rough. But then looking year over year, sales were up nearly 9%. They were up 8.9% compared to November of 2022. And that is something that Jonathan Smoke, chief economist at Cox, has been talking about a lot lately, is just that the consumer has been extremely resilient throughout these times. There has been a tremendous amount of compression on the U.S. consumer, but, and that's actually a good segue into these slides, we have started to see affordability start to improve. The used vehicle value index that has been trending down over the last number of weeks, you can see that There was an increase earlier on in the year, but really since then, we have seen used vehicles continue to trend down, ultimately giving a little bit of relief to some of those consumers who are looking and are a little bit more price sensitive. It's allowing them an opportunity to get back into the market.
And I
And
think
then,
we're good. Good.
oh, and then I just wanted to also touch on the fact that we are starting to also see incentives improve, specifically APR percentage offers that are below 3%, just hit a 2-year high here early on in December. And, on the big three, the strikes are over. We're seeing supply being higher. Financing offers are growing. Used vehicle values are coming down. And you're kind of seeing all of this as being a perfect storm to start to improve affordability and ultimately just help mitigate the impact of some of the higher rates that we've been seeing.
Yeah. I think one of the things I when I hear these resilient consumer, what I really hear is, and I hope I hear stupid consumer. Because I'm me, I'm a conservative spender, and I do want car dealers to sell more vehicles. I do, but I also don't want it to be like hold, and then boom. That's what I don't want. And so that's just something that I've been bringing up with the dealers is like, as long as we realize what resilient customer, like I hear strung out customer or strung out consumer, like going to the absolute break point to keep everything like, oh, it's okay if we avoid it and we think everything's fine, then it is fine. You think I'm seeing that weird? Because it's you and I can see the way things are spending. We see how expensive things are. And I'm not saying that they don't still have money. I agree. But it just seems like it's really pent up.
Yeah, I think strung out consumer is a good choice of words there.
Okay. That's all I'm saying. If everything could cool a little bit to let everything normalize, it's a much better position than holding it high, and then having a terrible February, March, April, May, June, and a rough rest of the year. I would rather slowly land, if you will. So, anywho,
let's see if the Fed can actually hit a soft landing. We'll see in the months to come.
Oh, we don't want to get. We can get on that road later on. Okay, next one there, Phil. Okay, so most successful stores. Pretty simple here, guys. If you're getting this, you're either part of the Fountain Forward Automotive Accelerator, or you've at least filled out a form to request to be in it previously. Here are the focuses right now. When it comes down to the sales training, I won't read the slide. You guys can read that yourselves. Here's what we're telling people. When it comes down to driving traffic and getting conversions, getting lead volume, we're focusing on trying different offers, whether it's on the OEM side or it's on the independent side. But the thing that we want to make sure we tell our stores is this. So the thing you can focus on is listening to every freaking call you can, looking at the choice of words your salespeople are using, proactively bringing up the trade. On the OEM side or on the franchise side, 0% offers and low lease payments are getting a lot of lead volume. Matching your inventory with your current market. Know that if your market is a small town and you have a bunch of $35,000 trucks, it's going to be difficult to sell to the masses because that pool of buyers has shrunk because of interest rates. And the prepping for 2024 with documentation and digestion. All that I'm suggesting is this. Not all that I'm suggesting. I shouldn't say that. One of the things I'm suggesting is this. Please, as much as you can, go with your sales managers. And if you're a sales manager listening to this, fantastic. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Every morning, let's say you're a small store, there were 10 leads in the day before. Fantastic. Look at the 10 leads. Where did the 10 leads come from? Who talked to those leads? What did the conversation look like? Do the same thing the next day. Make sure it's documented in the CRM. Do the same thing next day. We have 18 days until, or it'll be 17 days by the time this goes out, until 2023. Why not start now, over document in the CRM, and really build that ground and pound game, the bread and butter, so that you're extracting as much possible value out of advertising, marketing, etc., while also training your salespeople on some better habits going into the next year. And as much as you can, make sure that they know. And again, if you're in Fountain Forward Automotive Accelerator, you have Fountain Forward University. They should have already seen the types of ads you have out and such. Make sure they're educated about what the customer is seeing and what the customer is going through. Because if you can understand their pain and you could speak to that, your ability to break down the trust barrier is much easier. And so with that said, Phil, real quick on slide 7, if you don't mind. So this is an example of a Ford store that we partnered with about 4 months ago, and in August, I think it was, or September, I think it was, Phil.
September was our first month.
September first month, yeah. And this is just changing up the media mix model, make sure that we're spending right, but then credit to the general manager who's a badass. He got focused, he locked in, he said, we're going to put them all through Fountain Ford University, and we're going to show up to all the webinars, and he is literally going to double his new car sales year over year. Well, I mean, he already beat that in November, but he's going to double them. And I see this guy in an area where he could probably do 100 new units, and he is not in a big market. And it's just, this dude is documenting. And I believe his words were yesterday, we got to see him in person for the first time, hounding. He's a hound. He gets there the next morning and he's looking at all the leads. He's like, hey, Fountain Ford, do me a favor. I got you guys. I've got you guys presented the data. It looks like this, and this. I'm going to get you guys the best offers I can. I'm going to merchandise the vehicles. You guys just keep bringing me opportunities, and I'll crush it with the salespeople. And so I just encourage you, regardless if you work with us or not, if you could just dominate your fundamentals when it comes down to the documentation and the digestion of how your sales team is doing going into 2024, regardless of where the market goes, you will be ahead. And when everybody is distressed, you won't be. So that's all I want to do, is hope you document.
Good deal. Y'all,
Cool.
That's the Automotive Market Minute from Fountain Ford.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a fantastic end of the year, and we will see you in January.
Looking forward to it.
See you guys. Bye. Merry Christmas.